following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah, go Cowboys!
This is Mick Shots, streaming live on DallasCowboys.com and the official Dallas Cowboys app. Now, here are Bill Jones, Everson Walls, and Mickey Spagnola.
And time for a Throwback Thursday edition of Mick Shots inside the SWBC podcast studio here at the Star in Frisco as the Dallas Cowboys are on the practice field as we speak. We're going to throw it back to the starting quarterback to start on Sunday against the Detroit Lions. And, Mickey, we've got other things we'll throw back over the course of the next 45 minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe when we begin the second segment, we can actually show what we were talking about yesterday with Rob Phillips.
All right.
It's
we'll
pretty
take
good
you
stuff.
back in time, and it will be not only Rob Phillips back in the day, but Tony Romo back in the day also, before he became the Cowboys' starting quarterback.
And along with that, there's a clip in this show that we were doing of Dan Campbell.
Hey,
by
man,
the way.
you're bearing the lead, bro. What are you doing?
No, we got to get to the critical stuff, you know.
Hey,
Because
Bill.
everybody out there is waiting with bated breath for Dak Prescott to come running out for a practice in pads. And when
Does that mean bad breath?
went bated,
Bated breath.
yeah,
Is that
no,
what that
anxious,
means? Anxious? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
anticipatory breath.
Okay.
Because
Bill?
they got, the TV guys have got to get that shot of him running out, right? And
That's right.
he hadn't yet done it because
Because they're doing quarterback school inside?
indoors.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, dramatic effect.
So the offensive linemen came out, and this was funny. So they're coming out, and they're kind of 2 by 2, and the cameramen are basically blocking the field. They got in single file and found a hole, and all 10 of them ran right through this little crevice between the cameras. I was like, where are they going to go? And they did it single file, and the cameramen didn't move, and they didn't avoid them. It's like, this is our practice field. We're going straight ahead. So now they were trying to anticipate where the quarterbacks were going to go when they came running out. I would imagine by now they've probably done it. But
this is practice, right?
this is practice.
I just want to make sure.
There was no music playing,
I don't recall running out for practice. I recall,
Well, they already
belaboring the point.
They already warmed up inside, like the quarterback school, and then they come out because they're not a part of special teams basically at that point, or stretching. They stretch themselves.
I just want to know, does Bill have something to tell us today?
About?
Your elevator ride down here?
I got a feling I know what it was.
Yeah, man. Talk to me.
There was
man.
nobody on the elevator.
There's nobody in the elevator with you?
No.
No?
No.
You liar. He's lying.
Well, there are 4 elevators,
Yeah.
and they
There
can
are.
all go down at the same time.
Yeah,
too.
I know, but this is too much of a coincidence. Were you?
Where we walked out at the same time?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We didn't walk out of the elevator. We walked
was not
out
the
of
same elevator.
wasn't the same elevator, but
Okay.
we walked. I saw him as I got off the elevator, and
Well, what you need to understand, Everson, when you own the building, there's a special parking spot underneath where
yeah, so
you
that's
can just walk out.
that's
from
right. So I
underneath.
just walked out in my special parking space.
Ah, that's right.
No,
You
he's
could
talking
never
about
find the parking space.
Jerry and I.
Jerry, and wasn't just Jerry. Who was with Jerry?
That was his.
That was security detail.
Oh, well, no. Okay. I thought that was your security detail.
Yeah, so I've got
Shit.
secrets to tell.
Yeah,
or
right.
secrets not to tell.
He asked all the questions
did
in
not
the
in-
elevator ride.
He did not invite me out on the practice field. though.
Yeah, I saw
Where
it.
did you see us? Where were you?
Hey,
well, you
man,
were coming.
I have my ways.
You were
man.
coming out.
I have
Jerry
my ways.
walked on the field, and then you came
Around
right
the corner, right
him.
behind
I
him.
saw
Yes.
you getting on the elevator. I saw you pulling.
Oh,
I saw
and
you
then
parking. I saw you entering the building.
Everson gets his workout walking down.
All right. Well, sorry, I got no stories to tell.
No stories.
Nothing good, right?
No.
All right.
So
So Dak Prescott expected to take the first team reps in padded practice today, so that'll be the first time since the Thursday before the season opener. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what maybe, you can do all the time. I mean, you can jump in on this Everson, but you can do all the throwing you want as a quarterback, but you got to get under center and actually run plays and not throw to basically against air with wide receivers running routes for you. So
it's the closest he's going to get
right
to real competition until the real competition.
Until Sunday.
Yeah, you want to see where the DB is going to be, how
there's
the
the
route's
picture.
going to come out.
Yeah.
There's the picture. There it is. Well, you're on it, Bill.
Dak has run out on the practice field now. This update from the practice field in Frisco, Texas. Now we resume our regular scheduled program.
Dak Prescott has left the building.
And entered the field.
And he has a football tucked under his left arm.
So what's on his right thumb?
Oh, I'm sure it's that
blow up
athletic
this picture here. You can't see in this particular picture tweeted out by John Machota. You cannot see the right thumb.
But there'll be some black tape on it.
Okay, we'll take your word for it.
And it just goes around where the fracture occurred, and then it goes through the lower part of his hand around his forefinger.
Everson, take a close look there. What does that look like? Does that look
He's
like?
got a little tape, seems like just a little security tape.
Yeah,
okay.
That's all it is.
That's all.
All right. And it was 40 passes for him after the walkthrough yesterday.
Yes, maybe 50 today.
That's pretty good. You want to get that throwing motion back together again. Muscle memory, right?
And that's what he did before the game on Sunday.
They estimated 50 passes then.
And I approved that he was ready to go. They asked me,
you
by the way.
approved.
Also, out on the field was Dalton Schultz. They listed him as a full participant yesterday's walkthrough practice. I think they were anticipating
he was fully expected to walk yesterday. Okay, there you go.
And they were anticipating him to be full go today. I noticed that he was practicing with the brace on his right knee. I think he had taken it off. I remember they said, he felt more comfortable without the brace, and now for practice he's got it back on. So, and he was out there during the early drills, so he wasn't like rehabbing on the side or anything the way Michael Gallup and Ezekiel Elliott always warm up now every day working on the
and he was.
course.
I'll also add that he was on the jugs machine long after practice was over.
Yesterday.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good one.
So he's prepping.
And he better, because them young dudes are coming on. Better watch out. And also, James Washington was out on the resistance cords doing his rehab. And Simi Fihoko, now I know it's a shoulder, but I saw him running. He was running sprints. So, and I got your answer about injured reserve return.
Yes.
You do get 3 weeks ramp up if you need them or they want you to have them. But you don't get those other 2 that we were talking about afterwards.
Okay.
They did away with that. So James Washington, once they designate you IR return, then your 3-week window starts, just like NFI and PUP.
And his has not started yet.
And his has not started yet.
But Damone Clark started 2 weeks ago.
Right. So his will go through.
This will be his third game.
Right. And they get through next week because I think they started his on a Wednesday. So you go Wednesday to Wednesday.
Yep. It was Wednesday, October 5th is when he started.
So that's an update
we
from
can,
what we've seen.
In all likelihood, then, consider Damone Clark probably will be active for the Chicago game.
That's the possibility.
Or on the 53-man roster.
Right. And you can put him on the roster and not play.
Right.
But then he would have and here's the good thing. You would play a game if it worked that way, and then you got 2 weeks to recover because you know how you feel. You're not playing football for so long, and you go out there and get banged around, your body is like you're in a car.
I get the idea that maybe they do some of this stuff by design, that they decide that they look at the calendar and they say, okay, let's start his 3-week window so he could play in that Chicago game. And then, there's some method to the madness.
And then you get a week bye. There's only, I think, 1 practice that week because they have to let them have Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday during the bye. We have more rules, Everson.
I've got to see this guy play.
Yes.
You guys are really talking well about this kid.
And I haven't seen him play.
You haven't?
I've seen him
outside of highlights from college.
Okay. Well, I've seen him play at LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, not on the field, but on TV, and yeah.
Mickey said the same thing about Micah Parsons. Yeah,
He was smart. He was smart.
so if
I'm still a
Mickey's
Sam
scouting
Sam
eye-
Williams guy.
And
I'm still
I
a
said the
Sam
same
Williams
about
guy.
him too. I can pick those first rounders.
Yeah.
No, I don't know about getting the fourth round.
Well, no. You missed the first rounder this time around. I must.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's just remember that you didn't pick this first round.
I didn't pick him, but I picked a tackle.
See, he keeps.
You kept saying we need a guard.
But you didn't put a name with that.
No,
tackle.
I had no idea who he was.
Yeah.
You
But I
don't
didn't-
draft a
but I
guard in the first pick.
Well, how do you feel about that first round pick now, 6 games into his
I think it
career?
was a very good job that
good
they
job.
drafted a tackle of the future.
Listen to this.
Can you
answer.
imagine where this team would be if they had not made that first round draft pick and Tyron Smith got hurt?
Oh, and
Who would be playing left tackle if they had not made that pick? Because the next tackle that went in the draft was the guy at Indianapolis who was brutal last week.
Right.
Raymond, however you pronounce
They didn't
his
like
name.
him.
Right. And he went in the 3rd round. Okay. But
they might not.
Zach Martin.
They might not have.
Zach Martin would have been a
it'd have been
tackle.
either Zach Martin or Josh Ball.
And
or
then
it would have
you
been
to-
a veteran free agent
Right.
out there, swing tackle, a Ty Inseki type.
No, they would have.
Who,
they
by
would
the
have
way,
signed,
this is how things are going in Los Angeles with the Rams right now.
they haven't signed him.
Inseki last week signed a practice. You saw how bad things were with Indianapolis in that Thursday night game against Denver, okay? With playing their rookie tackle. Well, after that, they signed Inseki to their practice squad, okay?
They wouldn't
This
have-
weekend, Joseph Noteboom, the
saw that.
left tackle for the Rams, went down with an Achilles injury. And did you see who the
man.
Rams signed off the Colts practice squad? Yes.
No way.
Yes. Ty Inseki is now a member of the Los Angeles Rams.
They would have
And
signed.
he's got to be on their roster for 3 weeks.
They would
He
have.
signed him off their practice
Right.
squad, so he's going right to the 53.
They would have signed Jason Peters sooner.
Yeah, there you go.
We would have.
Yeah.
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 But still, we would.
Now, that would have been the option.
We still
Jason
would have been
Peters
looking
eventually.
at Connor.
Connor McGovern.
Connor McGovern would probably move over to the other guard, right? And then you have Fournier would come in and play.
No.
No, they would have had. They would have been doing what they did in the preseason. They worked. They didn't work Tyler Smith at left tackle during the preseason, as you know, and so, and then
He was at guard.
Right.
No, right.
so there would have been. There probably would have been another guard that they drafted or something. I don't know who was next on their board. They would have drafted an offensive lineman of some sort.
You think they would have
whatever.
done it before Let's Go?
Well, it would have been very interesting to see.
Yeah.
They would have had to have done something.
They
you
would
think.
have.
Well, however, the board was dry. I mean, there were so many tackles that went in the first round.
That's what I'm saying. We could have worked with what we have in house. Mm-hmm. McGregor moves over.
But Mickey's right that Jason Peters would have been signed to play
But he wouldn't have been
left
ready to
tackle,
play.
but he wouldn't be ready. That's
Yeah.
right.
But you would have signed him. When
You might have signed him.
Tyron got hurt.
You might have signed
Tyron
him.
got hurt before the first game.
Right. So
So
you
I-
sign him then.
This is when,
It was in
when they signed
preseason,
him.
right?
I mean, they signed him after Tyron got hurt.
It was right after training camp.
And he
'cause it
would
was here at the-
He would have been in the same
then
condition.
He would have been injured. You know, he wouldn't have been ready because he wasn't ready. So you would have had to go with Fournier, right?
at guard.
At guard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not
Yeah.
tackle.
No, I wasn't mentioning that. No,
Oh,
that's
you
why
meant
I said McGregor
you already
goes over.
The point of all this,
Zach Martin would be a tackle. Zach would be a
Right.
tackle.
the point of all this is that Tyler Smith was drafted to eventually be the left tackle.
Right.
They didn't realize, or they
Eventual
were hoping
happened
that it would
sooner.
not be his rookie year, and there he was
Exactly.
thrown in right off the bat, and I think he's
Doing
done
a damn
admirably.
good job.
Yeah.
Oh, and one other note from practice: the NFL medical checkup guy is back again, making sure the guys on IR aren't practicing.
Oh, okay.
As a matter of fact, I saw him. He went up to Simi Fehoko and made him sign something, like this is your injury that's reported. You have to clarify it. And he signed something for it.
Well, but his injury occurred in practice.
Yeah.
Right? And so there wasn't an obvious injury. There wasn't an injury in a game,
Like
so you can understand why.
They could look at practice video, by the way.
Yeah.
How do you think these guys get fined for too much contact in
Do
the
they
off
have
season?
to actually send them down here?
He's comes.
Everything can be done,
No, they come.
digitally.
They come and actually. So this is the second time in like 3 weeks he's been here. Yeah.
By the way, before
They just
we go
making sure you're not jacking around with the IR list.
before we go to break, on the subject of Tyler Smith, pretty interesting little matchup for him this week against another rookie first-round draft pick, Aiden Hutchinson.
Yes.
For the Lions.
Yes.
Yeah. So now Hutchinson, they move him. Sometimes he rushes from the right side, sometimes from the left side. So
They find the soft spot to put him.
That's one place to look.
And that's kind of
I
their
started
guy
to like
on
him
the
doing
defensive
Hard
line.
Knocks. I thought he was a cool guy.
Hutchinson?
Yeah.
Oh,
I thought he was real cool. His
Dan
family
Campbell,
seemed
too,
real cool.
huh?
Yeah, Dan, too.
And Aaron Glenn,
Man,
by
I
the
saw
way.
Dan on his highlights. And I knew he was like huge. You knew he had to be huge in high school. He looks
Did
like,
you see that?
He looks like Frankenstein running
Yes.
the doggone ball, man.
He had guys that were
Frankenstein
like
with pads.
They were like at his hip.
It's crazy.
That must have been the 6-man one before he transferred to what was it?
Where did you see it?
It was on
Hard
ABC,
Knocks?
I think.
ABC. I think they
Yeah,
had
it
a
was,
film of his
WFAA.
of his high school coach or his mom and dad and
Yeah,
the high
mom
school
and dad, high school.
Yeah, but he
Oh, my
looked
goodness. He was
like
huge.
a Jolly Green Giant.
He was huge.
And they showed the guy that they interviewed. He was on the team, and I'm going, that guy played?
He came to his rib cage.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're off to a rocking start here on Mix Shots for a Thursday. We're back with more in a moment.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
We paid how much for those lessons?
Shh, she's doing great.
Oh, yeah, totally. Can you pass me a Pepsi Zero Sugar? Great job, honey! Oh, look at that. That's not the end.
No way. Now it's time for the encore.
You know what? You're right. 5 times? Not enough times.
For everyone who traded in rock concerts for their kids' recitals, you've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar. That's what I like.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. You hear that? I'm a torrential downpour. Torrential? What's that even mean? It means you can't see out of your windshield. And if you have the wrong car insurance, you might have to make it rain to fix your bumper. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected. Subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
What do you call a group of grown men and women with their faces painted silver and blue who get together every week to share a 3-hour-long ritual of jumping, singing, and toasting Miller Lite in 10-gallon hats while yelling, "How about them Cowboys?" You call it Miller Time in Dallas. Here's to the Cowboys. Here's to the original light beer. It's Miller Time. Celebrate responsibly. 2021 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
Back to Mixed Shots.
Cape Post Roofing and Waterproofing, part partner of the Dallas Cowboys. From corporate homes to your home. Have your roof checked by choice, not by chance. Call now, 214-225-4860. That's capepostcompany.com.
All right, we continue with Mixed Shots, and we're getting ready for Cowboys and Lions on Sunday at noon. The traditional noon. Back to that. It's a throwback week.
So,
Cowboys playing a noon game on a Sunday.
Against Detroit.
Am I right? This is back-to-back noon games?
Probably.
Chicago,
with
too.
Chicago coming up next.
What does
Not
that say
exactly
about
a
our
glamour
what
team.
does that say about our popularity?
It's not
it
our
tells
popularity.
you that Sunday night was the most watched game on NBC for a year.
Mm-hmm.
For a whole year.
Or whatever. I don't know what the time frame was, but and it was by a lot. So, yeah.
So they need to have us on more afternoon games.
That's right.
And I don't mean noon games.
And it doesn't matter who they're playing. The Cowboys are playing.
Cowboys are playing, bro. Still the way it is.
All right,
Go
so
ahead.
are we going to do, set this up? Are we going to do it now or are we going to do it next segment?
Let's do it now.
All right.
I think Chris has it set up.
So Mickey off the top talked about, we said farewell to Rob Phillips yesterday, and we were talking about where Rob Phillips got his start at DallasCowboys.com, and it was a part of the original Talkiin Cowboys crew back in 2004-05. And this clip is from Training Camp 2005 in Oxnard, right?
Yes.
And it is a young Tony Romo and a younger Mickey Spagnola and Bill Jones and a younger Rob Phillips as well. So let's take a look and a listen.
We go to Rob Phillips so we can get an email for Tony Romo here on Talkiin Cowboys. Rob?
Yeah, it's a pretty simple email for Tony from Dennis Trook in Amarillo, Texas. He wants to know, Tony, if something happened to Drew Bledsoe, do you think you're far enough along in your progression that you're ready to take over and be the guy?
All right. What was the answer?
Absolutely.
That's the kids' table he was talking about.
That was the kids' table.
That's the kids' table.
He was off to the side.
Okay.
Because we got that, right?
Yeah.
And it was only big enough, I think, for 3 people. But even when we did it through the whole 2004
Rob did not
season,
earn enough status to sit at the big table.
He had a little table to the side, and it was just like an end table, right? It was small, and he was towering over it. And
I want to say at one point at Valley Ranch in the little TV studio, makeshift closet TV studio at Valley Ranch, I want to say there was an actual school desk.
Yes,
he sat in.
It was the equivalent. Yes,
it was. It was. No, it wasn't equivalent. It was.
No, it was a school desk.
It was a school desk, like one of those that you sat in 3rd grade.
Like you had to sideways into it.
You guys had a sponsor? Because I saw Bank of America on his shirt.
Oh, well then, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
It was a rotating sponsor.
Rotating sponsor, which still happens to this day.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All righty.
That's
as we look over our shoulder here in the SWBC podcast studio.
That's not bad video from 18 years ago.
Was it 05?
It was 05.
17
years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
We did have, and I've got it somewhere, we interviewed Kevin Costner.
Yes, we did.
At camp one year. And he was, obviously, he was great.
Yeah.
But we talked on and on. I mean, it was a 15, 20-minute interview with Costner.
So he was just out there watching the Cowboys practice.
Big Cowboy fan. He was out there throwing the ball around.
Really?
Yeah.
I believe at the time Jerry was staying at his house, like he rented out his house in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So
anyway, and we'll have another clip when we start talking about Dan Campbell, by the way.
Okay. All right. We look forward to that. When do you want to start talking about Dan Campbell?
I have the clip.
If Chris
Producer
is ready,
Supreme has the clip.
We needed to hear.
We were going to remind you that Dan Campbell played for Bill Parcells here for a couple years, right? And we've got a clip of him. So that was that same day in training camp, and we were interviewing the former Cowboys strength and conditioning coach, Joe Jurassic, and he was talking about guys rehabbing, and Dan Campbell had appendicitis surgery before the start of training camp. And so he was working to the side, and we thought it would be kind of neat to see what Dan Campbell, the football player, looked like as opposed to Dan Campbell, the clean-cut head coach of the Detroit Lions.
I want to ask you about Dan Campbell and how he's coming along. Of course, he had the appendix removed. Unfortunately, it was just a scope job, and they didn't have to do the major surgery on it. But he's already out here. You're working with him on a daily basis. He's in there doing squats, as Parcells said, in the weight room, and he's really coming along, isn't he?
Sure, that's one of the things that goes along with off-season conditioning. What happens is you can't prevent all injuries, and then you get something a little bit off the wall, like the appendicitis that he gets. But a conditioned athlete who goes into a surgery can get back on the field a lot quicker than someone who wasn't conditioned.
So who is that guy?
Joe Jurassic.
Oh, that's Jurassic. Okay.
Yeah.
He
would make sure he had a shaved head every time they started training camp. Yeah.
Okay. So how tall is Dan Campbell?
I want to say 6'4".
I would say 6'5".
He looks taller than that.
Yeah.
I think just because he's big and tall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, there's nothing small about him at all.
I think he was that big at high school.
No, I know he was that big in high school. His shoulder pads were huge. I mean, his feet were huge.
Listed at 6'5", 265.
Man, that's big.
So
and one of the reasons Bill had him on the team was the fact that he was a good locker room guy, and he was kind of one of Bill's guys. You know how Bill was big on his guys, Richie Anderson. Brought in guys that, and he wanted them to set the tone in the locker room for him, that he didn't have to go in there and do it. And that was Dan Campbell, and I don't think it's any surprise, I bet, to Bill Parcells that he has risen to the head coach of the Detroit Lions.
Well, and basically he got his Parcells was instrumental in him getting his starting coaching. When you look back at his playing career, it started with the Giants. He was a third-round, and Campbell was a third-round pick of the Giants in 1999.
Out of A&M.
Out of A&M, 4 years there. And then when Parcells got the job here, 03 through 05, so he was 3 years. So he was tight end on the team when Jason Witten was drafted in 2003. And then he went to the Lions for 3 years, 06 to 08, and then finished up with the Saints in 09. And, of course, Sean Payton was the head coach there. So obviously he had the same time. And he would have I guess he would have been with the Giants, too. He would have had Dan Campbell when Payton was at the Giants as offensive coordinator.
Right.
So,
and then did he go from New Orleans to
and
Miami?
then to Miami. And so he was a coaching intern in 2010 with the Dolphins.
Okay.
Tight ends coach from 2011 to 2015. Joe Philbin, the Cowboys offensive line coach, he was Tony Sperano first. And so Sperano was the head coach in 2010, and then Joe Philbin replaced him in 2012, I think it was, and he kept Campbell on his staff. And then, of course, Campbell, when Philbin was let go in 2015, Campbell became the interim head coach of the Dolphins. And so he worked his way up there, and then Sean Payton hired him as his assistant head coach and tight ends coach in New Orleans, and was there from 2016 to 2020. And then became the Lions head coach last year.
He was there when Sean got suspended?
I think Payton's suspension would have been prior to that.
Prior to that?
I'm pretty sure.
All right. I do remember the Miami part, because they actually started playing a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have much to work with at that time.
I was just wondering if he had been, covered by a lot of really good coaches or not.
Yeah.
Because I know I was a part of many great coaches, but I did not have any need to coach.
You didn't want to?
I never wanted to coach.
Really?
I think it's because of it wasn't the tutelage at all. That was amazing what I learned. But I also learned that they hated dealing with other people, and that's me. It's the ancillary, people that you have to deal with. Those people on the fringe, the mothers, the fathers, the friend, the other coaches, the bosses. I can't deal with all that stuff.
And 2012 was the year that,
2012.
that Payton was suspended. And so those are kind of his mentors in coaching.
They influenced him. Big time.
Going back, he probably would have first met Payton when Payton was the OC with the Giants. Mm-hmm. And then probably on his recommendation, he got signed to the Cowboys in 2003.
And Parcells knew what kind of player he was.
And Payton
you just
was
talked
here
about
then.
It, how
mm-hmm.
he was that locker room guy. So you could just tell he was going to be a coach.
It's just a great illustration of the networking that goes into getting those breaks.
Mm-hmm. And that's what his high school coach said last night. talking about this guy was made to become a coach.
He was probably the
coaching in high school.
Well, yeah, he probably was. I mean, as big as he was, he probably knew that he could set a good example with his teammate. And a lot of
if
people
they
don't
didn't
have
listen,
that kind of awareness.
he'd whip their ass.
Right, well, yeah, that's how you bring about awareness. Yeah.
I know Jason Witten has a lot of respect for him. I happened to run into Witten a month or so ago, and it was actually when Hard Knocks was going on. And so I asked him, "So you're watching Dan on Hard Knocks?" He said, "Oh yeah, I'm watching it." And in fact, Witten said that Dan invited him up during training camp to come speak to the team, but he wasn't able to make it because he's coaching his high school team, Liberty Christian in Argyle near here. But what Witten was saying about Campbell is what he was just hoping that they understand that their talent is not where it needs to be right now, but what he is doing is what was evident on Hard Knocks is the culture that he's establishing there in Detroit. And so the key on him is don't get off to a 1-4 start, which is what's happened, and for them to understand that it takes some time to build that roster up.
Yeah, and it will take some time, but I just think between him and Aaron Glenn. And Aaron Glenn had a couple interviews for head coaching job, too. Glenn was great when he was here in the locker room.
And, of course, he came in 2003 also when Parcells was here.
He was one of those guys you can go and ask, stuff about the game, and he didn't BS you. Mm-hmm. He told you basically. He used to get on me. We'd be in the circle around his locker room, and everybody would leave, and I'm still there. And he'd look at me, and goes, "Okay, what do you want?"
Were you that annoying?
It became
I can't
a
see
joke.
You being that annoying, man.
He knew. Now here comes the good question.
That's what it is.
That's what it was.
All right, I'm looking at their coaching staff, see if I recognize any other names.
Mm-hmm. He's got a bunch of players. On his former players, yeah. Running back coach.
Yeah, the running back coach.
Well, Mark Brunell's the quarterback's coach.
Right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Deuce Staley is the running back coach.
Deuce Staley is
Deuce and Aaron Glenn, they have a very spirited relationship.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
On Hard Knocks, they showed that.
On Hard Knocks.
There you go.
Pretty competitive is what you're trying to say.
Antoine Randall is their wide receivers
Nice.
coach. Kelvin Shepard is the linebackers coach. So there you go. And we've got more of Mick Shots coming your way in just a moment.
We paid how much for those lessons?
Shh, she's doing great.
Oh, yeah, totally. Can you pass me a Pepsi Zero Sugar? Great job, honey! Oh, look at that. That's not the end.
No way. Now it's time for the encore.
You know what? You're right. 5 times? Not enough times.
For everyone who traded in rock concerts for their kids' recitals, you've compromised enough. Pepsi Zero Sugar. That's what I like.
Nobody protects you from mayhem like Allstate. You hear that? I'm a torrential downpour. Torrential? What's that even mean? It means you can't see out of your windshield. And if you have the wrong car insurance, you might have to make it rain to fix your bumper. So switch to Allstate, save money, and be better protected from mayhem, like me.
Based on coverage and limits selected, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. In most states, prices vary based on how you buy. Allstate Bar and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million individuals have served in the armed forces since the Civil War. Fewer than 4,000 have received the Medal of Honor. The National Medal of Honor Museum will be a place to preserve these legacies and inspire America. It's being built right next door to the Dallas Cowboys in Texas. Help us honor our country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
The season is finally here. For months, we've been gearing up to win. Now it's time for the team that performs on any field, United Ag and Turf. With John Deere zero turns for mowing, compact tractors for loading, mini excavators for digging, Gator utility vehicles for hauling, implements for grading, hay tools for baling. United Ag and Turf, for winning. The official Ag and Turf equipment supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Visit UnitedAgAndTurf.com for more. Back to Mick Shots.
Get your game day mentality on with the Dallas Cowboys official sideline gear inspired by coaches and players made for all of Cowboys Nation. head to the nearest pro shop or log on to shop.dallascowboys.com. A fanatics experience. Experience. Yes.
Sound like my nephew. My little baby nephew. Experience.
It's an experience.
Okay, you done with that, Reed?
I am done with that, Reed.
What else you got on your legal pad there?
Well, the other thing, one last thing on Campbell, we were talking about him playing 6-on-6 football.
Mm-hmm.
It was in Morgan, Texas. No, I'm sorry. I take it back. He was raised on a family ranch where he helped raise cattle. The closest town to him was Morgan, Texas, which had one intersection, no stoplights, 6 to 10 students per graduating class, and 400 total residents. So to have the opportunity to play 6-on-6 football at Morgan High School, he ended up transferring to Glen Rose as a sophomore so he could play 11-on-11. And his nickname was Boone.
As in?
It doesn't say why.
B-O-O-N?
Yes,
Is it Nancy?
B-O-O-N-E, Boone.
Boone.
I assume Morgan is fairly close to Glen Rose, which is southwest of Fort Worth.
Yes.
Okay.
The Morgan Eagles, just letting you know,
and
Bill.
Glen Rose is approximately, it says here, 70 miles from AT&T Stadium.
Okay. So there you go. That's what we know about Dan Campbell. Now, what else do we know about these Detroit Lions?
I know. We spent a lot of time on Dan.
I've got notes here talking about how well they have run the football.
Mm-hmm. We talked about
this yesterday. They've got the second-ranked offense, third-ranked in defense, and here are the totals. Against Philadelphia, they ran for 181 yards. Against Washington, they ran for 191 yards. Against Minnesota, 134. Seattle, 145. And even though they got shut out by New England, they ran for 101 yards. So if you put all that together with the exception, of the New England game, with the New England game, they're averaging 151 yards a game.
You said they were number 3 in defense?
No, rushing offense.
Oh, okay. All right.
Defense, they're dead last.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
That's been their problem.
Those analytics didn't pan out. Yeah,
if I misspoke, I appreciate.
Yeah, you're still misspeaking.
I apologize.
Yeah, you're still
misspeaking. I'm still messing around, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, that's one thing the Cowboys obviously have to be aware of because it sounds like their other running back, DeAndre Swift, he had missed the previous 2 games. And Jamal Williams?
Yes.
He was their lead guy after that. But it looked like he practiced on a limited basis yesterday. So we'll see if he's ready to get back.
So you mentioned that they have the number 3 scoring offense in the league. Number
3.
2.
Okay. It was number 8 rushing, I think.
But as far as scoring offense, they're number 3.
Right.
And total offense, number 2. They lost to Philadelphia 38-35. They lost to Seattle 48-45. And so Dan Campbell has one of the highest scoring offenses in the league, but it doesn't compare to his old 6-man football team in Morgan, Texas. As the producer Supreme just sent me an update on their season, how it's going, and in their last game they beat Iredell 107-82.
Those games are just insane.
6-man football
6-man
in
football
Texas
is insane. You have to be in shape, and you have to be able to do more than one thing.
And usually they don't become 107-82 scores because I think there's a 45-point rule. If you get up by 45, they call a game.
You're lying.
No, there's something like that. So usually the good
true.
teams win like 70-20 or whatever.
Yeah.
Do they wear equipment?
Yeah.
It's not like flag football?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Or 7-on-7?
No, full tackle.
Yeah. It's full ball.
And
you need
like
to go
I said,
watch a 6-man game.
And usually the better players, they are very multi-talented. They can throw, run, kick, do all that kind of stuff.
It's usually the Tuesday of the state championship week.
Smaller field?
They condensed the field at AT&T Stadium, so it's at the numbers.
But what you need to do, you need to make a trip out to on a Friday night and watch six-man football, where you've got the under the dim lights of a Friday night, where you get the full taste.
They don't even give them bright lights; they're dim lights.
Dim. I actually have a friend who he and his son used to make trips to watch six-man football. It was like a father-son deal.
Yeah.
When his kid was probably 7th or 8th grade, and he loved going to watch him play.
Did he play? Did he play?
He was a player himself, and he just it was a father-son outing on a Friday night. They'd pick a six-man game each season to go to. So there's an idea for you.
So it's not
that's America, baby. That's little
right.
America. Yeah.
It's not like women's basketball in the day when you played half. Everybody was on their half of the court.
3-on-3 on each end of the court.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
You can't cross half court.
And way back.
Are we old or what?
They were wearing.
This is the old view.
They were wearing skirts.
That's what this.
I think they were wearing skirts too. By the way,
that's the way it used to be in Texas high school girls basketball. That's right.
Well, it was that all over. If they actually had it, because growing up, they didn't even have women's basketball in high school when I was there.
So tell me, the Cowboys are probably going to see certain things in regards to the running game.
Yes.
Inside handoff jet sweep will probably be one of them.
Absolutely. And we saw that.
And they're going to make Michael Parsons make a decision. You can't do it rolling out with a quarterback that's not that mobile. So there's some kind of way they're going to still put him in a bind to where he's going to have to make a decision. And I think that inside handoff move is going to be something that the Lions are going to count on.
That is why he needs to play linebacker. And if you want him rushing the quarterback as a defensive end, then do it in its third down and passing situation.
Right. Third and long.
So he doesn't have to make those. And Jared Goff won't create the problem that Jalen Hurts did with the RPOs. Okay, Jared Goff's not going to roll out and keep it.
We did put him at middle linebacker a lot in the game.
Yes, they did. And that's not where he had problems. He had problems when they lined him up as the fifth guy on the defensive line.
I think that's when we settled down, actually, when we put him at middle linebacker as opposed to putting him on the line.
Do you see how many times Goff has been sacked this year?
That's what I was just looking up.
7.
That's it?
That's it.
And the Cowboys lead the league with 24?
Well, you know what he's going to do. He's going to get rid of that ball real fast. I mean, if he's smart, he's going to have all quick throws. And that's going to be the MO against this Cowboys defense in the future.
Well, I want you to explain this to me, though. So they're on pace for 68 sacks over 17 games. Cowboys. In a 16-game season, the franchise single-season record is 62, set in 1985.
That's right.
So, but that was the year you guys had a bunch of interceptions, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the sacks, the interceptions, they go
hand in hand.
In hand?
Yes, they did. Well, when you look at that season, we weren't the powerful, Cowboys that we were in the early 80s and the 70s. You could just kind of see things start to fall off a little bit. And, our defensive line, they were really the strongest part of our team at that time. So Tom was just letting them loose. He let them loose. And I think at that time, by 1985, he realized that we weren't just a bunch of knuckleheads back there, just stumbling into interceptions. I think he realized that there was a method to the madness.
Right.
And that finally became part of our MO, part of our culture, was sacks and picks. It just took him a while to get there.
I'm wondering, and I don't have my media guide. I probably shouldn't even say this, but sacks didn't become an official stat till 82, right? 1982.
Wow, that's stupid.
So I'm thinking even before that, in the heyday of Too Tall Jones, Harvey Martin, Randy White, they might have had more than 62.
81, they probably did. In 81.
You think?
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. If we weren't, like I said, we weren't back there getting toasted, we were picking it off.
Yeah.
And these guys were our lifeline. That front four was our lifeline.
Man,
we had Thornton also, Bruce Thornton, and Larry Bethea as our backups as well. So it wasn't just those four guys, Dutton, White, Martin, and Jones. We had two backups that came in with a lot of energy.
And you think back to Doomsday 2, like 77, they were awfully good defensively. No telling how many sacks they would have had that year.
That was a Super Bowl year.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When they devastated Denver.
So are those games not available anywhere? Can we not go find them and go track how many sacks they had?
No, those guys that did the research, those two guys from somewhere in Kansas, maybe Kansas City, Kansas, they went back and looked at all those games, and they calibrated the number of sacks guys had, and in most cases they added them on, and it ended up being.
Where's the game by game?
In Harvey
game
Martin's,
by game.
Where is it? Where
did they find it?
Where's their work?
Oh,
because if they've charted every game, we
could have numbers.
We have the numbers.
You can find it. They listed, and they adjusted Randy White's numbers. They adjusted.
They adjusted Harvey's numbers.
Numbers.
They took away 2 of his sacks.
No, they did.
They took away 2 of Harvey Martin's sacks. That's a fact.
I need to know where to find this.
And the NFL wouldn't recognize it. Just
the NFL wouldn't recognize it?
They wouldn't recognize the numbers to change their numbers.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
To make the sacks official.
Yeah.
But they went.
Why not?
They didn't trust that they did the
I want to say they went all the way.
They didn't pay them?
Yeah, they did it on their own and wrote. I don't know if they wrote a book, but they did a study. And I think they might have gone back to all the way to 1960.
Well, I mean, it seems like the NFL would want to cooperate with them. And
yeah. No, that was part of the story. You can look it up. Not now. But you can search.
He will.
Yeah,
he
I know.
Will.
You can search for it. Well, no. Producer Chris will tell you we're out of time already.
I want to know past breakups too.
And they had it listed.
Because I want to know past breakups.
And they changed.
Did they only do sacks?
They did sacks. And they changed the list of all-time leaders in sacks.
Without the NFL's
And they
approval.
compared it to what 82 was. And a lot of guys moved way up. Yeah.
But they, once again, not approved.
Like Jeff Coates moved up because he lost.
Well, we can approve it.
A year.
NFL ain't trying to hear it.
Yeah,
obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
All right, I'm going to go on a mission.
You go find it.
Okay. All right, and we'll be back for another edition of Mick Shots at noon on Friday.
Go Cowboys!
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!